Well, shalom, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Wow, what a positive reaction that last video that I put up had. You put the word Messiah in the thumbnail and in the title, and it just propels it into a different universe. That being said, there were quite a few negative comments, quite a few people that I had to hide from the channel. Fortunately, before doing that, you go and have a look at their channel and see, okay, well, you know, these people are pretty critical. Many times they are very rude, and you say, okay, well, what are these people doing? And you'd think that they're sort of maybe doing something that's similar, maybe looking at similar subjects. And no, one guy, probably the harshest comment that appeared. I went to his channel and he was just a guy that brews beer and smokes mushrooms. Okay, you just go, well, why were you watching that video? Like, what got you to click on that video with the content that I see? So it just goes to show you that no matter who you are, no matter what background you have or what you are doing in life, everybody secretly is searching for the met, searching for the truth. You know, and I remove the comments, guys, when you're rude, not so much to, you know, to show you that I can't, you know, receive what I dish out supposedly, but more for your sake, because if the comment stays up and other people read the comment and they get involved and they jump on, and it's just something that'll end up burying you, trust me. So you always have to be polite and behave yourself when you are commenting, you know, and you can pretty much get away with anything in your comments if you're polite. You know, if you are polite and you are kind in your comments, you may not necessarily agree with the content of the video. I will treat you like a king. I will treat you like you wouldn't believe. But if you want to come at me and you want to be rude, you want to be kind of condescending, you know, try and rattle me and everything like that, then, you know, you'll disappear and you'll, you know, all the best. It's one of the beauties of being able to block people and you know, hide them from your channels. Unlike real life, you really don't have to deal with them, you know, unless they're going to be really keen to sort of get back at you, use another account, but that's quite rare. But thank you, those of you that watched the video. Keep sharing it and let's see how far the content of that video gets, because I think there's some interesting things and very crucial, important things that should be discussed in that previous video that I put up. But now we are going to continue looking at the Mesillat Yesharim through the eyes of Rabbi Avigdor Miller. We are up to book 3, we're up to volume 3, and we're in chapter 18, which is entitled The Explanation of the Trait of Hasidut, that is piety. Those of you that are watching this on the playlist, please bear in mind that there will be huge sections or there'll be intermittent videos that have subjects missing if you're following along in the volumes with me, because I normally put these sessions out on a daily audio class in the mornings, and get it out to a whole bunch of people. And if you're interested in being added to the daily Musa classes, looking at the Mesillat Yesharim through the eyes of Rabbi Avigdor Miller, let me know in the comments, and I'll get in touch with you and somehow get them to you either via Signal, WhatsApp, or Messenger. So let's get into it. We're up to part 7. Hasidut requires great wisdom. Hasidut requires great wisdom. Just before we get into it, a chassid is somebody who goes above and beyond. And so this is something that a lot of people, especially Christians, can relate to, that concept of going the extra mile. It's not about actually being obedient. It's about taking that as read. Okay, you're obedient in your capacity, in whatever capacity you are, whether you're a Jew, whether you're a Gentile, whether you're a man or a woman, a child or an adult, you know, whether you live in the land, in the Holy Land, whether you live somewhere outside the Holy Land, whatever your role is, you're for a greater or lesser extent, you're fulfilling that role. But this is about really putting the bells and whistles on your observance and refining it and making it as beautifully executed as you possibly can. So it's a very interesting subject. So Rabbi Avigdor Miller says, we should recognize the difference between a tzaddik and a chassid. A tzaddik is a righteous person, And a righteous person is somebody that obeys the Torah in their capacity. Doesn't mean there's somebody who doesn't have sin in their life. It is simply somebody that when sin does arise in their life, they quickly put that sin down and they deal with it, and they don't try and sort of sweep that under the carpet. So anybody can be a Tzaddik. You can be somebody of great intelligence. You can be a simpleton, and you can still be a righteous person. So Hashem doesn't bring you into the world and deliberately shortchange you in the potential acquisition of the most loftiest things that you can attain in life. So whether you're poor or whether you're rich, it doesn't matter. In fact, arguments can be made that, you know, if you're born into a rich family, life's going to be a lot harder for you to attain holiness, to attain true spiritual success and a true connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Because, you know, with a lot of money comes a lot of distractions and potential for you to be able to do things that a poor person can't do. So there's a poor man's sins and a rich man's sins. And so you want to be guilty of a poor man's sins over a rich man's sins any day, because a poor man can't really do that much. So to be a Tzaddik does not require very great intelligence, but to be a Chassid, however, it does. Okay, so you can attain righteousness, you can please the Kadosh Baruch Hu, you can go on to greatness, but if you want to go above that and you want to give more than what is required, then that takes the mind of somebody who is very strategic in terms of how they go about improving their relationship with Hashem. And so the person's constantly innovating. So it's about being more innovative in your obedience, not just sort of this, you know, hitting a cadence and being obedient with the cadence that you're striking, you know, the rhythm, the battle rhythm, but you're thinking, how can I increase? How can I improve even beyond this? I know I'm doing well. I know I'm doing better than the average guy, but I don't want to do better than the average guy. I want to do as best as I could possibly do before I exit this world. Now, the Mesilat Yesharim says, but the essence of Hasidut itself is a very deep matter, difficult to understand properly. And it is founded on the foundation of great chokhmah, a great wisdom, an extreme perfection of deeds, which every wise person is expected to pursue, because only the wise are able to actually attain this knowledge. So not everybody is wise. Not everybody has the trait of chokhmah, of wisdom, come to them easily. You know, so that's why there's wise men. People will go and see a wise man. You know, if everybody was wise, there wouldn't be this thing of a person going to see somebody who is, you know, particularly gifted in a particular matter, and asking that person for advice. You know, most people are kind of average thinkers. You know, there's people that are a bit above average, but when you get a person that's, you know, really excelling in his wisdom, that is not necessarily, you know, wisdom's a little bit different than knowledge, because the wisdom is the correct application of that knowledge. People can be knowledgeable but still do stupid things. But nonetheless, knowledge and intelligence are prerequisites for chokhmah, for wisdom. Rabbi Victor Miller says, the perfection of deeds which are dependent upon great wisdom are those deeds in which Hashem indicated his great interest. For example, when we see the Torah, how much space is devoted to relationships between people and their fellow men, we begin to understand that the way you behave to your fellow man is one of the most important goals of Hashem. Therefore, doing beyond what the letter requires in the area of relationships is Hasidut in the proper direction. So many years ago, I remember hearing an individual say, I'm a God pleaser, not a people pleaser. Those two goals, or those two fortes, they are not mutually exclusive. They are enmeshed. This doesn't mean that you're somebody who goes around pleasing people, and in the process of doing that, you're breaking the Torah. You are somebody that can find favor in the eyes of man through your humility, through the way you conduct yourself. It's just infectious. It's just contagious. It's people just want to have whatever it is you're having because they like the way that you're conducting yourself. You know, so you can't sort of say, well, listen, I'm just going to do what Hashem wants me to do and just not care about what people say. It is important that you bring to bear, to some degree, have some sort of concern of how you go about doing Hashem's will. If there's a way it can be done where it's in no way causes that obedience to be minimized or to cease, and it can be done in a way that's more pleasing in the eyes of people, then absolutely one should go about doing that. And of course, the direct cultivation of good relationships with friends, family, and relatives, and people that become enemies. Why did they become your enemy? Is it your fault that they became your enemy? Was there some threat that they perceived that you were possibly represented? And what are ways you can do to mitigate that and assure them that you're no threat to them whatsoever? And maybe they have a different opinion of you. Maybe what you're doing could cause them issues with their livelihood. Maybe you're a competing business or something like that. And so you have this on your radar and you go, how can I, it's like a disgruntled customer. They buy an item, a product, and it doesn't work with another item that they purchased. And the person goes back to the store and the store has been closed down and they've contacted them a phone number and they just get an answering machine. As the owner of that business, what do you do to get that customer to just do a complete about face? Because at the moment, the customers are irate because they have been sold an item that was bought in good faith, that was meant to work in combination with another item they purchased from you. It didn't work, so straight away, bang, they feel that they've been lied to and they've been scammed. Number two, they've gone back to the shop and the shop is closed down. And when they were at the shop purchasing the product, there was no sign that the shop was going to be closing down soon. There was no sort of closing down sale. And on top of that, when the customer tries to call them and get the issue resolved, there's an answering machine and maybe they send an irate email to you as well. So what do you do as the owner of a business to change it all around? One of the options you could do is you get in contact with them. You eventually get in contact with them and say, listen, we're sorry about the problem, the issue you had with being sold that wrong item. We're open on this particular day. Come in, give us the product. We will give you the product that actually works with the item that we sold you previously, and we'll give it to you for free. And we'll maybe give you a 10% or 20% discount on your next purchase. So by doing that, you have turned an irate customer who's going to tell people about, bad business practices. The shop's closed down. This is really bad. Don't go to that store. Now that person's got a totally different feeling towards your establishment. They're like, okay, this place is great. I got the item for free. It was actually more expensive item than the wrong one that they gave me anyway. And I've got a 20% discount on my next purchase. Okay, these people really care. And, customers aren't stupid. They know that sometimes things, get through no fault of the business's own, happen wrongly. And so when you move in and you can, and this is working on how to cultivate a relationship with people. And we have to do this too with Hashem. We've got to work on how we can cultivate a relationship with Hashem. And so we learn to be innovative. In fact, one of the most important words that you can associate with being a Hussid is innovation. Okay, you've got to, are you an innovative person? If not, learn what it is to be innovative. A lot of people in the Messianic movement don't learn. They don't learn a lot of base things. They tend to just sort of read sort of headlines a lot, and they expect other people to maybe do a lot of their learning for them, which doesn't really work. And so what they do is they have this desire for innovation in them, and instead of innovating in terms of learning and applying that application innovatively, they will rather be focused on worldly and global events. And they'll begin to speculate and get very in depth on these global events, which Hashem has control over anyway, which only come to us in a bad form when Hashem's representatives are misbehaving anyway. And so they will get in all sort of into the subject of what the next coming calamity or next coming upheaval or something that's going to kind of concern a lot of us. and they'll be looking at ways of how to sort of innovate, not being caught up and involved in whatever that thing that's coming is going to cause us, any grief. Case in point with the vaccine, people are very focused on, Messianics in particular, very focused on how do we kind of get out of all this sort of stuff and not be affected by this, and not march to the beat that the government's trying to get us marched to. Rather than saying, okay, well, I'm just going to use this time now to really learn. I don't have to go to work. I've got all these books at home. When am I ever going to get around to reading them? Okay, I can kind of do that now. So anyway, let's keep going. So relationships. Relationships with humanity. Hashem has a great emphasis on relationships, building relationships with people, family, friends, relatives, and colleagues. And so, this is somewhere where we should invest our desire to innovate. Therefore, those who pursue more understanding of the Torah are doing what Hashem considers proper, and Hasadut is the direction of shaping the mind. Shaping the mind is also called proper Hasadut. We have to study in which directions Hashem wants us to go, and that's what I was getting at. If you don't study it and learn what it is that possibly is most applicable to you and something that you should be pursuing, then you're just going to go off and just get into things that are just going to cause you, in the long run, a lot of grief. The Mesilat Yesharim says, and the sages of blessed memory said, an ignorant person cannot be a chassid. An ignorant person cannot be a chassid. Rabbi Victor Miller says, they didn't say you can't be a tzaddik. A tzaddik is a person who keeps the laws of the Torah and is a righteous man. But to be a chassid, that's not enough. We must know and understand. He needs a great deal of knowledge and understanding, because some of the things a chassid may want to do may be venturesome and risky unless he knows in which direction Hashem wants him to go. Sometimes he could go in the opposite direction. Therefore, a chassid must learn, because he has to know the ways of the Torah, and he has to study the directions in which a person could go if he wants to volunteer to go beyond the line of duty. And this is the problem with the COVID, when we had COVID. There is a correct Torah perspective on a pandemic and what the population should do. And I'm not going to tell you what that is, because it'll just cause controversy and a whole mess of comments down below this video. But there is a Torah, a very distinct Torah perspective to a scenario involving a pandemic, and what a given country should do to keep themselves as protected as best they can from losing people in that population to that virus. But if people don't know what that is, then people kind of go off in the wrong direction. We will explain this concept in a certain order. Okay, so we're going to go to part 8 of chapter 18, which is entitled The Love of a Son for His Father. The root of Hasadut is as follows. And this is from Tractate 17a. Tractate Berakot 17a. It's Tractate. Which Tractate? Tractate Berakot 17a from the Gemara. Fortunate is the man who labors in Torah. That's the first thing, because Torah gives him the ideas. It gives him the mentality, and then he can give additional pleasures to the one who created him. Okay, there's no way around me saying this. You have to input upon yourself a schedule of learning. So you have to, every day, every weekday and every weekend, you have to schedule in a time for learning. And you have to be aiming at 3 hours a day minimum. Okay? Now, maybe for you, it might be 20 minutes, might be a phenomenal amount of time of just sitting and learning. But the goal is a minimum of 3 hours. So you've got to work towards that goal, even if it takes a year, even if it takes maybe 2 years for you to get to that goal of 3 hours. And if you don't, you've already got to that goal and you're drifting back, then climb your way back. And if you can get to 3 hours and you can go to 4 hours, then all the power to you. And don't make a fuss about it. Don't tell everybody that now you're studying Torah 3 hours a day. And certainly don't tell anyone, even close friends or family members, that you might even be studying Torah more than that on a daily basis. Keep it to yourself, because as soon as you start to tell people how much you're studying Torah every day, people are going to say, well, what Torah is he studying? Because he's still acting like a lout. So the only way from there making these grandiose statements that I study 7 hours a day or 12 hours a day or whatever is going to be, the only way is down. And so you just keep it, it's just between you and Hashem how much you study. But I'm here telling you, you should be aiming for a minimum of 3. If you can get to more, great. And obviously you don't want to do it to the point where it's going to cause harm to you, to your work. Meaning you're going to not get enough sleep and you're not going to be able to focus on your secular job. And it's not going to cause any issues with your family members if you live in a small house. Perhaps you're learning while everyone's asleep and it's waking them up or whatever. Be innovative. Look of ways to innovate. But I've got a 12-hour job and by the time I get home I'm too tired, blah, blah, blah. Okay, there's headphones, there's apps you can get on the phone. You can listen to all lectures. You can listen to Tanya classes, you can listen to Musa classes, you can listen to anything on the way to and from work, whether you're driving in a car or traveling on a train or even walking there. Most people take between half an hour to an hour to get to their workplace. So that's an hour to 2 hours of traveling every day. So that is now, I've got 2 hours learning ticked. Look how quick and easy that was. And so you have the lecture on the entire time you are traveling on the train or you're in the car on the way to and from work. Okay. The root of Hasidut is as follows. Fortunate is the man who labors in Torah. That's the first thing Torah gives him, the ideas, to give him the mentality, and then he can give additional pleasures to the one who created him. Rabbi Victor Miller says, in order to give Hashem, so to speak, additional happiness, by doing things beyond the line of duty, the first requirement is to toil in gaining Torah knowledge and Torah attitudes. Okay? So you want to gain Torah knowledge and you want to gain the Torah's attitude. There's no point getting the knowledge and just becoming a basket of books if you're not also going to let the knowledge that you're acquiring affect your attitude. And this is an attitude that changes your perspective in life. And when all these bad things are happening to you and you're finding that you're growing older and the doctor says you've got some sort of illness, rather than, carrying on and telling people, woe is me or woe is me, you are looking at these things from a slightly different, well, it extremely depends, let's just say a different perspective. So nothing gets you down like it used to, put it that way. The idea is, the mitzvah that is obligatory, says the Mesilat Yesharim, upon the Jews are well known, and it is known how far the obligations extend, meaning when a Jewish nation was an observant nation, everybody knew what he was supposed to do. Everybody knew what he was supposed to do. However, if someone loves Hashem with a real, true love, he will not be satisfied to make himself free by accomplishing only that which everybody knows is an obligation. He won't be satisfied to do anything what he is obligated to do, which is something that all Jews have to do. So, if somebody's in love with somebody, they've met somebody and they intend on getting married or whatever, no one ever said, what's the minimum I have to do to be in love? Love is just love. You're in love and you're just doing stuff because you're in love. And you're opening the car door, you're laying a red carpet out virtually wherever the object of your affection wants to walk. There's no limits to the things you want to do somebody when you are newly enamored by a love interest by the potential wife to be, the mother of your potential children. It's just, what's the minimum? You're not thinking like that. You are just devoted to do the maximum you can possibly do to keep that other person, beguiled by your innovative ways. And there's that word again, innovation. Love, when love is really strong and pumping hard, a person is innovative. They're organizing elaborate dates, elaborate gifts, surprises. And this is all through innovation, which comes from a desire to please the object of a person's affections. A man who loves Hashem will try to exert himself more than what others are doing, says Rabbi Victor Miller. The author now explains with a mashal, with a parable, that is a principle that underlies the whole story of Hasadut. Rather, it will occur to him as occurs to a son who loves his father, that if the father would reveal his mind, even slightly, that he desires a certain thing. For example, if he was passing a store by a window, and the father just stopped to look at a certain thing in the window, to the son, it's very important, and he saw that his father was interested in a certain object, so the son feels a desire to exert himself to see that the father gets the object. The father didn't say a word, and the father didn't urge him to do anything, but because he's seen that his father is interested in the object, he stopped and he looked. And why did he stop? What caught him? What caught his guard to have him stop and spend time just staring in silence at that object? The son now feels an urge to see what the father, to see that the father gets it. Because the son's, he's not particularly probably a bright kid, but he knows, okay, my dad probably wants that. The Mesillat Yesharim says the son will now try to increase that thing, not only that object that the father showed interest in, but even something bigger and better, or that kind of act, whatever he can. So all of a sudden, the object of your affection becomes a huge area of focus for you. And so you become an expert in what that object of your affection is about. And so therefore, you can bring to that object of your affection things that will please that individual that they didn't necessarily ask for. But you will know that it'll be right up their alley, whatever it is that you do for them or give to them. Suppose the father is interested in a certain kind of musical instrument, a cheap little instrument. He didn't stop to talk about it, and he didn't say, get it for me, but the son saw that the father was interested, so the son is not satisfied to buy that little cheap instrument. He goes out of his way and saves up money to buy for his father the more expensive version of that instrument. And he does all that he can to help his father carry out his pleasures. That's not to say if that's all you can afford. A kid asks you to buy them a new iPhone and you can only afford just the bottom of the line, then obviously that's something. But even then, you would try and get maybe one up from the bottom of the line. And even if you can't go an extreme amount more, sometimes you can just go a little bit more than you can possibly afford. You can go just that little bit extra and acquire that thing that's just off the bottom of the range. And if you can't, you can't. And so you have to do what you can with what you've got. The Mesillat Yesharim says, even though the father only said it once, and even then, he did not say it completely, still the son already understands that the father's wish. It is enough for such a son to understand in which direction his father's mind inclines to do for him even what he did not say openly. Rabbi Victor Miller says, that means as follows: when you look in the Torah, there are things that are not mentioned openly, but are hints regarding the direction in which Hashem wants you to go. So the man who knows Torah and is at home with the ideals of the Torah senses the direction in which Hashem wants him to go. In order to cause pleasure to Hashem, he tries to do more than what is hinted, and he wants to carry it out as fully as possible, even though the Creator didn't tell him to do it. Since the son is able to judge by himself that a matter would be a pleasure to his father, he will not wait to be commanded more explicitly. He will not wait to be commanded more explicitly or to be told again. Rabbi Victor Miller says, rather, as soon as the son sees even half a hint from his father, he utilizes all of his efforts in order to please him. This is called hasadut. As we see, this requires a great deal of intelligence, because otherwise he might make wrong inferences from what the father hinted and sometimes go in the opposite direction. Therefore, hasadut is only for the intellectuals who know the Torah and understand the spirit of the Torah. Otherwise, he cannot be a chussid. There's a lot of people that are doing cosplay, that are dressing up and they've got the peyotes, and they're driving to shul on Shabbat, it's cosplayers. These are people that are playing dress up. It's Purim, 24/7, 365 days a year for them. Don't be deceived. And they'll have the longest beard, there'll be a bit of grey in it, and they'll have a book under the arm. They're not even, they're not even righteous. They're just playing dress up. Don't be deceived, because there's some that really look like they're Hasidim. They're not Hasidim at all. If you see them outwardly, doing something that is going against the Torah, obviously, according to the way we're meant to give somebody the benefit of the doubt if you don't know who they are. If they've got a reputation of being a righteous person, they're doing something wrong, you've got to give them the benefit of the doubt. But if they've got a reputation of being a rasha, and you see them doing something wrong, you aren't allowed to give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, I hope that makes it clear. That's the halakha for that. Just in case I get somebody saying, "Hang on a second, that's not the halakha." Just for you guys there in the know. When people learn properly, they get the spirit of the Torah, not the letter of the Torah. Did you hear that? When people learn properly, they get the spirit of the Torah, not the letter of the Torah. So that's the idea of the teaching of being able to pull your donkey out of a ditch on Shabbat, because the donkey would be distressed if it spends the entirety of Shabbat in a ditch. It isn't teaching you that only if you've got a donkey and it's in a ditch can you take the donkey out. There's a general spirit behind that law, and it's just utilizing the marshal of a donkey to give you the actual spirit behind how the Shabbat should be observed, in terms of, okay, if there's some situation that arises where persons or an animal, even belonging to somebody, is in a situation where it could be injured, because who knows, it could end up become life-threatening, then of course you have to see that animal's needs, even if it is on the Sabbath. Then because they love Hashem, they go beyond the line of duty and add in those directions. But people who are not learned don't know what the Torah wants of them. And if they try to volunteer to go beyond the line of duty, they might do ridiculous and sometimes wrong things. You get guys that, wear white and roll around in the snow. Or I think there's one guy in Israel, or it was in Bnei Brak, or in the US. He had students leading him around because he would not go out in public without his eyes covered. Anyway, after a year or two, I don't know, maybe it wasn't even that long, he ended up being found out and involved in some sort of act of promiscuity. But he made a big, thing about, when I go out in public, I make sure I have my eyes covered, and he was having people leading him around. So don't go off your tree like that. That's not being innovative. That's just being stupid. Therefore, the principle of Hasadut is the desire to do the will of Hashem, even if he didn't command it explicitly. Seeing what Hashem's intentions are is enough for the Chassid to run ahead and do more than what's required of him in order to carry out Hashem's intentions beyond what was stated. Okay, so this is the whole idea. Somebody, case in point with the very popular Christian one with, going the extra mile, which was referring to the Roman soldiers during the occupation of Judah. If they were marching through a town, they would sometimes pick out a random Judean to carry their packs for them a certain distance. And so, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that this soldier has ordered me to carry his pack for him to the next town. If I'm able, I'll carry it beyond that, or halfway to the next town. If I'm able, I'll carry it all the way to the next town. If I'm able. So you don't want to go above and beyond and promise more than you can actually do. You want to be reasonable. It's not going to be any sweat for me to go another mile, another couple of miles. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me. That takes us to page 162. Fairly straightforward stuff there. A lot of things to think about nonetheless. Until next time, thank you so much for joining me. Bye for now.